Our next speaker is Glenn Jackson Jr. I have activated your microphone. You can unmute yourself and begin.
Hello, my name is Glenn Jackson Jr., and I'm a 13-year-old transportation advocate. Over the past few months, I have been learning to be more of an environmental justice advocate. This is my first time making a public comment to the California Air Resource Board. I live in Natomas, which is part of Sacramento. I am asking the board to seriously consider selecting the Gardenland Northgate community for air pollution monitors. Did the board know that Gardenland was established by immigrant farm workers and railroad employees of whose families still live in the community? Did the board know that according to the 2000 census, 41% of Gardenland Northgate residents identify themselves as Latin or Hispanic, which is more than 21% in the city of Sacramento? Did the board know that Northgate Boulevard was extended to become a commercial corridor? One end of Northgate leads to the I-80 freeway, and the other end leads to I-5 and Highway 160? Did the board know that Northgate Boulevard alone has 8 drive-thru restaurants, 12 gas stations, and 19 smog and auto repair businesses, along with 2 schools and 7 churches? It's sad that a lot of disadvantaged communities at this meeting are struggling just to live. Every community, especially underserved neighborhoods with a majority of Black and Latinx residents, wants to breathe clean air. Isn't it a part of the cardboard's mission to protect the public's health by reducing air pollutants? I ask the cardboard to make a valuable contribution to the Gardenland Northgate community, whose health is truly invaluable. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Glenn.
We sit in a bowl here in the valley in Sacramento. It's like the altitude level coming down, and it's like when there's any forms of smoke, it comes and settles right over the bowl, and so thank goodness for the trees.
So I think that definitely the air quality has changed from when I was younger. I think especially with the wildfires recently, that's been affecting a lot of the air quality, air pollution in general. So I think I've noticed since that big fire maybe back in 2018, I believe. When the air was very foggy, or not even foggy, very brown. It gave me a lot of headaches, throat ache or sore throats, a lot of like these pain symptoms that I would associate to like a cold or flu. It's just very musty air. I try not to go out during those times, of course, unless I have to, and it just feels like very dirty air, and it's very like it always like affects my vision.
But as far as air quality goes, I think that there's been a change in the way people look at being outside. You know, there used to be a time we didn't really think about that kind of stuff. We weren't worried about, unless there was a fire or something like that, where it was just like all the way obvious that the air quality was changing. You know, now it's like unseen gases or some stuff.
And I think I think it's one of those things that it's hard though you can see the freeways and it's clearly there, but it's also hard to know that the environment is bad though, right? I understand that it is like, because I'm working in this air quality space and like transportation space, and we just know from data that the fumes and all the stuff that's coming from the freeways are affecting our communities. But I think it is hard to see it if you're not like feeling it, if you have the asthma impacts or not, right? Like these are things that are like silent killers in a way of like they will come get you in the afterwards. Like you grow up in a community like this, then you're probably going to have some kind of breathing issues potentially. So I think it's just to say that, like, physically I can't say that I feel those types of things except when it's like fire season. Of course, you can literally see the air quality is terrible. But I think that luckily I haven't had that, like, issues in that sense. And again, I've been there for 4 years, so I don't know, like, what long-term implications could be of living in a place so close to a freeway. But I think that you see it just by looking at the numbers of, like, people that do suffer from asthma in these communities, right? Like, that's pretty obvious data. If a quick Google search could probably give it to you, so you know that this is happening. And so, yeah, it's a huge concern because, like, the overall community, the way that it has been built, even though at once there was a streetcar going through Oak Park, it's still pretty car dominant, right? And the bicycle infrastructure isn't really there. I mean, you look at Broadway and you look at Stockton, they're not there. And then you have people that are biking and stuff, but it's like also you have bike share that is in there, but then there's also some demographic issues with that, right? Like, who's using it. So I think, like, we're missing the ability to bring on our communities of color, and particularly in the Oak Park community, that they're not, like, maybe not using those resources, but it's also because it's expensive. And there's also safety issues that people are thinking about, that it's not safe to be on a bike as a black person or as a brown person. So, yeah, those are issues that are very prevalent.
We used to go to Rayleigh's on Freeport Boulevard, but, that kind of gets support, bringing her along, and, I bring the grocery carts and her walker, and it gets kind of hard getting on public transit with her, and it, with the smoke. Last year we traveled one time and we had to just come straight home, and we had to close the windows and turn on the air conditioner,
Right.
But
And what so you're your mom's caretaker. Are you concerned sometimes, like, with the air pollution and your mom's health and making sure that she can stay healthy?
oh yeah, she was we recently went, she was just discharged from the ER too over a heart issue, and I had to find all the devices, online, and because I can't go in person, without a mask, or they might not be open during certain hours.
I think my favorite part has been the environment of, like, just the people walking around, right? Like, it feels like very friendly, and, like, the gather area, like that little part over at the 40 acres building, like, it's just like, I love that I can just walk to these places, have a beer, have some food, have the community events. I think have been my favorite, because I just didn't grow up around that kind of environment.
So my mental health, I think besides the pandemic, of course, but when the air quality hit, like, I was always forced to stay inside. Or personally, I prefer to stay inside because it was just better for me in physical health wise. But, like, I think there's times of moments where I just felt really lonely just because I couldn't really do much. I really limited my time outside, and just felt kind of secluded at those times. And because if I didn't want to go out, I'd be risking my own health. So that's why I had to avoid as much as I could.
Well, I just know that when you have air quality problems, when you have air problems of your own, physical, especially with asthma, it makes it harder to keep your air, to keep your airways clear. And a lot of times it affects you at night, and that's when you know that you're really taking in too much, of what is quote unquote regular. And some of my grandchildren are really, really air sensitive,
But a personal experience that I have had when I was back in preschool in South Natomas, I had my first asthma attack. So my mom asked me if I wanted to advocate for Garden Northgate to get air monitors. I said that I would.
There are many old people here, so um, sometimes when we go outside, you see now the fire white, the smoke everywhere. So it's very difficult for people because they are old. So they very difficult to breathe. It's like me. Sometimes I want to go out to take the fresh air to breathe, but it's not easy. in the fire day. So I think the air qualification is very good, very necessary for people for environment area. So it's not easy because some day is good, some day not good. But for our people, they usually have cough and it's easy to get disease in their lungs or their heart.
I love the community because I attended Oak Ridge, Fruit Ridge, and American Legion, and even though I wasn't very interested in it, I came back and I went to school at the food bank, and I was able to actually pay for my testing, for GED and all that. Now that's pending, but at least I put my foot in the door, yeah, and I'm glad. My mother loves the area. She was a volunteer at the food bank at the downtown one. She worked at various places too, and while we were at school at Campbell Soup, while we lived in Oak Park, and I was able to. She took me at a young age so that I could. She presented me in a Cinco de Mayo dance at a local elementary school, and they loved me, so we never moved from Oak Park.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you still dance?
I dance a lot.
Yeah?
Dance a lot. Yeah.
Do you?
Like to exercise a lot. Yeah.
Well, I know that lemon balm is one of the plants that used for that, and also eucalyptus. It grows everywhere wild, so I just go into the community and see the trees up or down and find some leaves. Because some things we don't have to grow; we actually grow them naturally, like the way chamomile is grown in the cracks of the street. Chamomile is one of those ones that actually calms your being and makes it so it's easier for you to communicate, etc., and relaxes you. You know. And the mints, the different mints. You can actually boil them, any of these plants that I was just talking about, and you can boil them in a pot of water and steam it for the house, and that will help to moisten the lungs. There's a lot of different plants that are very good for the lungs, and licorice is one, and I've never grown licorice, but it's a really good plant for the lungs. But as far as people doing things, there were in communities like in Oak Park, the Tuskegee Flyers wives and the women from the military bases came together in the 1940s and actually put together a housing and community-based organization called the Women's Civic Improvement Center. And they helped to bring rental properties and extended opportunities in the community by way of coming to them. Because at one point there were very few places that we could actually live as African Americans and Hispanic people, etc. We had to live in specific areas, and so that was one of the organizations that actually still exists today in different format, but that helped the community out, and that was part base. And then in the Heights, one of the other things that we were doing at the different community gardens there, the sugarcane garden, and also on Vern and Grant, and then the other garden that we're doing out in El Paso Heights area that we've actually been doing for about 9 years, and we just continued and have continued to re-nurture that soil area so that's one of those places that you can go and teach people about the earth. We've really been doing different things with Green Tech. I've worked with them for several years, off and on, and there's been a whole lot of really great things happen in the community.
The environment, air quality is very important, always important for us, for our neighbor, especially for our people. So I have some relatives and my aunts, my uncle. So I'm very happy to see them to grow a lot of tree and let their house cleaning time and they know how to stop smoking or they don't know how to protect themselves to have good health. You see, they can go out to breathe the fresh air in the morning, but sometimes it's not, the air is not good, so don't go out at that time. Yeah.
Some of my favorite parts about my community is that there's a grocery store that's right down the street, in walking distance, and a lot of neighborhoods don't have that. Um, Another favorite part is that there are safe bike lanes that I can go on. Uh, Another part that I like is that there's a smart ride because before that there was no transportation other than to drive, and now we have transportation to be able to go places where we need to go.
Yeah, definitely air quality. I think it's just something that like I don't think of too much sometimes. Maybe if I just had like more access to like all the data, it probably would be something I would be able to address more if I knew more about it. But definitely I think air quality is something that everyone should be concerned about, especially since like with the pandemic and everything, everybody wants to be outside more. And so that's definitely something that's important. And I think maybe if we just had more data, more knowledge about it, it would help everybody address it.
You see, because if you have good education, you go to school, at least high school is easy for people to understand, to see the problem easily. It's important, how it's important to you, to your health, to your neighbor. But for some people with the limit education, it's not easy to tell them because they are old and they have the way of their life for a long time. So it's not easy to change them. But for them, I think we have to devotion. We have to love them, to care of them a lot, and to tell them some example clearly that they can see easily for the person who live there near their house and who passed away by the disease. Some the truth thing. So I meet them often, so talk to them and listen to them. So I think it's be good. A good way to change them, to help them how to open their mind to see is what is the important to change. It's necessary for their health to protest because it's not easy for they in one day. Yeah, you see, it needs a time to change. So when you have a good education, you see a lot of things. You read a lot of you see in the film, in TV, every day you can see the problem easily. But for some people, their education is limited, so it's not easy for them. So sometimes they don't believe. They don't believe what we say. But when we tell them the truth, show them clearly what happened near them, and or some picture like, so they can see clearly day by day. They can open their mind easy, so they can sometimes they can understand and share what they think. So I think that is important thing. How to convince them, how to pursue them, and help them to see the problem clearly. Yeah, I think that.
I'll probably still be advocating. I also advocate for transportation as well, as that's how we got the smart ride. Probably about the air pollution, I can't stop the industrial park from being built, but I would try to replace the 5 trees that they took down, because that'd be an issue, since the air pollution is already getting worse from the industrial park being built.
We just keep moving because there's so much to do, so many things that have to be done to just stay alive and stay surviving. So I think that there's a lot of people that don't really think about the air quality unless there is a fire and they're watching the news and that kind of thing. I think that people overall, there's a lot of people that are just surviving right now. Things have really changed a lot.
Getting people to just realize what's going on and seeing that this threads through a lot of different things, the inequities of it. And so I don't know if I'm answering the question specifically, but it's like, looking at these bigger issues is sort of the root, the main solution, I think, right? Because if we look at, we can do air quality monitors and it'll tell us that it's bad. We can try to promote electric vehicles and create EV charging stations, but it's I still think we need to go back to the housing part, right? Because who's living there and who are we trying to support in this community? I think the tangible ones are those more education oriented, right? Engaging the community and knowing what these little tactics can be very beneficial. The gas thing, right? Selling people on electric or versus gas stoves is such a thing. I feel that way too. I'm oh shoot, do I really have to give up my gas range? How am I supposed to toast my chiles properly without it? It just doesn't work the same. But you have to start shifting that mindset, right? And realizing how crazy it is that we are cooking with this open flame gas in our homes. When you think about it, that's kind of wild. So I think there's a part education. I think the relationship, just the places that are enforcing rules don't have good relationships with the community, right? That's what it really comes down to. A poster's not going to change my mind, right? Personally, or anyone. I maybe I will because I'm in this space, but my mom isn't, right? She doesn't live here, but it's I always kind of reference if I'm doing something, would my mom or my dad care about this? Usually it's no, it wouldn't. So it's okay, how do we have to figure out how to engage people in a way that's comfortable for them? And it's doable, right? It's so doable, but it just takes a lot of energy and resources to do it. And I think this right now, hearing these stories is the critical thing, because that's what is missing in planning and decision making. You have people that get elected, yes, by the people or whatever, but they're not living this experience. They're not living the life of an Oak Park resident, right? That has a lower income or is a person of color even. So how can you represent them wholeheartedly, right? So it's that's an issue. And so we have to have better relationships with the community so that you can understand what are those solutions. Because I think that's, again, another big thing is the solutions are driven from the top. And while we do, I think, and I say we, working in a city or government function, we do have expertise and knowledge. We did go to school and you got some different understandings of the world, whatever. But then it's you kind of forget sometimes the implications of it. And I think that's where we're at, where it's just a lot of the times planners and decision makers just think, well, I know best and I was elected to make decisions. Yeah, you were, and you might know more on some things, but you have to like do a pulse check, right? Like you have to check in with your community, and I think we're not really doing that. We do like planning, like the big plans that we do, right? Like we'll have those kinds of things, and you'll do engagement once every 4 years, and then be able to say like, oh, this project falls under XYZ policy, and like, okay, yeah, but like that's not really vetting, and that's not really getting to community level planning. So it comes back to engagement, like, and communication and sharing of information. Like if we know that something is harmful, tell the community, right? Like try to find ways that actually resonates with them, whether it's the gas thing or like, you know, cracking the window, or like, hey, if there's fire season, like these are things you can do, or like make sure you request from your landlord filters for your AC or whatever, like those kinds of things. And just also, I don't necessarily like the community capacity building, that term necessarily, because I don't want to say that you have to put, like, it's on us, I think, as government employees to do that work, but there's got to be a relationship where we're also sharing knowledge with them so that we can co-create together.
Right.
I think that's the co-creation is the biggest thing.
Thing for real, this is our time to build. The eagle and condor is our symbols of unity. Red and brown mix, yo, we all in the community. We are young, gifted, and brown. Change the world around. If the town came to shut the system down. Young, gifted, and we are, and you are. Little Joey Baton on the samples. With a chance to change the world around. That's what we're out here to change the world, right? Make a better place.